The front door slammed shut with a thunderclap that echoed through the quiet suburban street in Elmwood, Ohio, sealing Thomas's fate like a coffin lid. Rain poured down in sheets, soaking his thin t-shirt to his skin as he stood frozen on the porch. The word faggot still ringing in his ears from his father's bellowed curse. In that instant, the boy he'd been 17, wide-eyed, clinging to the dream of a family that might one day understand, shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces, each one slicing deeper than the cold Midwestern wind. Thomas clutched his backpack like a lifeline, the only thing he'd grabbed in the chaos. A few changes of clothes, his worn-out notebook of scribbled lyrics, and the faded photo of him and his little sister grinning at last summer's county fair. The porch light flickered on behind the storm door, illuminating his mother's silhouette hunched, sobbing, but unmoving. She didn't come out. No one did. The neighbors' curtains twitched. But Elmwood was a town built on whispers and averted eyes, where queerness was the sinew buried deeper than Grandma's secret bourbon stash. He stumbled down the steps, the gravel driveway crunching under his sneakers like breaking bones. Headlights pierced the downpour from the end of the block, a beat-up Ford pickup that belonged to Pastor Reynolds, the youth group leader who'd promised Thomas guidance after catching him stealing glances at the boys during lock-in nights. "Get in, son," the pastor growled, his voice thick with false concern. "We'll get you somewhere safe. Can't have you out here like this. It's a liability." The drive to Cleveland blurred into a haze of wet wipers and Bible verses spat like accusations. Pastor Reynolds droned on about redemption, about how places like the sanctuary house could straighten him out with structure and prayer. Thomas stared out the window, watching the cornfields give way to the neon sprawl of the city, his chest tight with a rage he didn't know how to name. Safe house. The words tasted like ash. What kind of sanctuary locked its doors at dusk and called it protection? By the time they pulled up to the squat brick building on East 55th Street, the rain had turned to a relentless drizzle that mirrored the tears Thomas refused to let fall. The sign out front read, "Sanctuary House," a haven for wayward youth, but the chain-link fence topped with razor wire screamed something else entirely. Inside, the air smelled of bleach and stale microwave dinners, and the fluorescent lights buzzed like angry hornets overhead. A stern woman in a polyester skirt, Ms. Hargrove, the director, clipped a visitor badge to Thomas's shirt and recited the rules like a prison warden. Curfew at 8, no outside contact without approval, mandatory group therapy, and absolutely no inappropriate attachments. "Your file says you're gay," she said flatly, flipping through a manila folder without looking up. "We don't judge here, Thomas. We heal. You'll thank us one day." He was shown to a bunk in a room with 5 others, boys and a couple of girls, all ages from 16 to 19, their eyes hollowed out by stories Thomas could only guess at. The walls were thin, plastered with faded posters of smiling families and quotes from Corinthians. That first night, as the others snored or whimpered in their sleep, Thomas lay awake, tracing the bars on the window with his fingertip. Freedom was just a fire escape away, but the alarm would wail, and Ms. Hargrove's redemption team of counselors would drag him back. Trapped. The word clawed at his throat. Morning came with the clang of a bell, like starting a sentence you'd never finish. Breakfast was oatmeal that tasted like regret, served in a cafeteria where everyone sat in assigned seats. Thomas kept his head down, but across the table, a guy with sun-bleached hair and a scar snaking down his jaw caught his eye. Hunter. The name was whispered like a legend among the newbies. 18, in for 6 months after his own family disowned him in the Bible Belt Badlands of Kentucky. He didn't talk much, But when he did, his drawl cut through the bullshit like a switchblade. "You the fresh meat from Ohio?" Hunter asked, sliding a contraband pack of gum across the table. His green eyes held a mix of pity and fire, like he was sizing up whether Thomas would break or burn. Thomas nodded, popping a piece to mask the tremor in his voice. "Yeah. Kicked out last night. Dad said I was an abomination." Hunter's laugh was low, bitter. "Welcome to the club, kid. Abomination's the nicest thing they called me. Wait till you hear the rest." The day dragged on in a blur of therapy sessions. Circles where kids spilled their guts about shame and sin, only for Ms. Hargrove to nod sagely and prescribe more scripture. Thomas hated it, the way it twisted his pain into something to be fixed, like he was a bent nail needing a hammer. By afternoon chores, scrubbing floors on his knees, his hands were raw, his mind replaying the slam of that door. But Hunter was there too, mopping beside him, his presence a quiet anchor in the storm. "Ever think about running?" Thomas whispered during a break, wiping sweat from his brow. The industrial cleaner burned his nostrils, a chemical penance. Hunter paused, his mop handle creaking under his grip. "Every damn day. But they got Waze trackers in the shoes, calls to the cops. One kid tried last month. Found him 3 blocks away, half drowned in the Cuyahoga. Suicide attempt, they called it." He leaned closer, voice dropping to a conspiratorial hush. "But voices like yours, they carry farther than you think. Sing something for me sometime. Bet it shakes these walls." Thomas flushed, remembering the notebook in his pack. Music had always been his escape. Guitar licks stolen from YouTube, lyrics poured out in the dead of night. But here, felt like tempting fate. That evening, in the rec room, the group was herded into fellowship hour, a euphemism for enforced bonding over board games and bad coffee. Hunter cornered him by the vending machine, slipping a crumpled note into his hand. "Meet me in the laundry after lights out. Got something to show you." Thomas's heart hammered as he palmed it, the paper warm against his skin like a promise. Lights out came too soon, the room plunging into darkness broken only by the red glow of exit signs. Thomas waited until the snores settled, then slipped out, barefoot to muffle his steps. The hallway was a gauntlet of shadows, the safe house's night guard dozing at his post with a dog-eared Danielle Steele novel. Laundry was in the basement, a humid warren of washers humming like distant thunder. Hunter was there, perched on a dryer, a pilfered flashlight casting eerie beams across his face. In his lap sat a battered acoustic guitar, strings frayed but tuned. "Stole it from storage," he said with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Figured you might play." Thomas hesitated, fingers itching for the neck. "What if we get caught? Then we get caught together." Hunter thrust it forward. "Play, Ohio. Let me hear what they tried to silence." The first chord rang out, tentative, then bolder, a raw cover of Hosier's "Take Me to Church," Thomas's voice cracking on the verses about bodies as sacraments. Hunter watched, transfixed, the air thickening with something electric, unspoken. When the last note faded, Hunter reached out, his calloused hand brushing Thomas's. "That," he murmured, "that's the sound of breaking free." In that moment, amid the spin cycle's rumble, Thomas felt seen, not as a problem to fix, but as a soul worth saving. But as they slipped back to their bunks, a shadow lingered. The safe house's walls weren't just brick. They were lies, layered thick, and Hunter's eyes held secrets that could crack them wide open. Weeks blurred into a monotonous grind at Sanctuary House. Each day a carbon copy of the last. Dawn prayers that tasted like coercion. Therapy circles where vulnerability was weaponized. And evenings spent dodging MS. Hargrove's hawkish gaze. Thomas adapted, or tried to, learning the unspoken codes, like how to slip extra bread from the kitchen for the hungrier kids, or timing his showers to avoid the leers from the older boys with their own unchecked demons. But Hunter became his compass, their stolen moments in the laundry or behind the dumpster during yard time weaving a fragile thread of normalcy. Hunter was a puzzle, pieced together in fragments. Born in a holler outside Louisville, he'd been the golden boy varsity quarterback, church soloist, until a drunken fumble with his best friend at prom after-party blew his cover. His dad, a coal miner with fists like sledgehammers, beat him bloody and dumped him on a Greyhound with $50 and a curse. "Don't come back till you're cured, boy." Sanctuary House had been the end of the line, or so Hunter said, but Thomas sensed gaps in the story, pauses where his drawl thickened with something like fear. "You're too pretty for this place," Hunter teased one afternoon, as they raked leaves in the postage stamp yard, the autumn wind whipping crimson and gold across the chain link. His shoulder brushed Thomas's, deliberate, sending sparks up Thomas's arm. "Gonna get you in trouble." Thomas laughed, a real one for the first time in weeks, shoving him playfully. "Says the guy who looks like he stepped off a CW show. What's your secret? Kentucky? Pray away the charm." Hunter's grin faltered, just for a beat. "No prayers for me. Just survival." He glanced at the security camera perched like a vulture on the fence post. "Hey, tonight, rec room piano. After everyone crashes. Got a song for you." The rec room piano was a relic, keys yellowed and sticky, but it sang under Thomas's fingers like an old friend. Hunter stood guard by the door, his silhouette framed in the moonlight slanting through the bars. Thomas played a melody he'd been nursing in his notebook, something soft, ticking, about porches in the rain and hands that held too tight. When he sang the chorus, voice low and gravelly, Hunter crossed the room in 3 strides, pulling him up from the bench. Their first kiss was inevitable, a collision of need and defiance. Hunter's lips were chapped from the wind, tasting of spearmint gum and desperation, his hands fisting in Thomas's shirt like he was afraid he'd vanish. Thomas melted into it, the world narrowing to the heat of Hunter's body, the faint stubble scraping his chin. It was messy, urgent, teeth clashing, breaths mingling in gasps, but in that locked room, felt like revolution. "God, I've wanted this," Hunter whispered against his neck, voice rough as bourbon. "You make this hell bearable, Tom." They broke apart at the sound of footsteps amiss. Hargrove's orthopedic shoes squeaking on linoleum. Hunter shoved Thomas behind the piano, hissing, "Stay down." She poked her head in, flashlight beam sweeping like a searchlight. "Who's there? Curfews for a reason. Just couldn't sleep, ma'am," Hunter called out, stepping into the light with his most disarming smile. "Praying for clarity," she huffed, satisfied, and shuffled away. But the close call lingered, a crack in their bubble. Back in the bunk room, Thomas lay awake, heart pounding, replaying the kiss like a forbidden reel. Hunter's bunk was across the aisle, his breathing steady, but Thomas caught the glint of his eyes, open, watchful. The next day brought the first real fracture. During group, a new kid, 17, fresh from a Texas ranch, all freckles and fear, broke down, confessing a crush on his roommate back home. Ms. Hargrove pounced, her voice syrupy venom. Sweetheart, that's confusion, not love. The devil twists our desires. We'll pray it out of you. The room tensed, kids shifting uncomfortably, but no one spoke. Thomas's fists clenched under the table, lyrics bubbling in his throat like bile. Afterward, in the hall, he cornered Hunter. We can't just sit there. It's bullshit. They're breaking us. Hunter's jaw tightened, that scar pulling taut. You think yelling fixes it? They'll ship you to conversion camp in a heartbeat. I seen it, kid from Alabama. Came back. Different. Empty. He grabbed Thomas's wrist, thumb stroking the pulse point. We play smart. Build something real first. Us. Thomas wanted to argue, but Hunter's touch disarmed him, pulling him into a shadowed alcove for a stolen kiss that tasted of salt and secrets. They started meeting nightly, piano sessions turning to make-out marathons, hands exploring under hoodies, whispers of futures beyond the bars. Hunter talked dreams. A dive bar in Nashville, open mics where Thomas could sing without shame, the two of them in a shitty apartment with mismatched mugs and morning coffee. Thomas believed it, let it bloom in his chest like a wildflower pushing through concrete. But Sanctuary House had its own pulse, an undercurrent of rot. Rumors swirled, kids vanishing after private sessions with the counselors, donations from church groups that bought silence. One night, Thomas overheard Ms. Hargrove on the phone in her office. Yes, sir. The Kentucky boy's compliant. But the new one's mouthy, might need reassigning. Compliant. The word slithered into Thomas's dreams, twisting Hunter's face into something haunted. Thanksgiving loomed, a mockery with its paper turkeys and canned yams. The house hosted a family outreach dinner, where pious strangers from local megachurches paraded in, cooing over the lost lambs while slipping envelopes to Hargrove. Thomas and Hunter were paired for serving duty, their fingers brushing over plates, eyes locking in silent rebellion. Under the table, Hunter's boot nudged his, a Morse code of I got you. As dessert, stale pumpkin pie was doled out. A guest, a silver-haired deacon with a Rolex that screamed hypocrisy, cornered Hunter. Son, I hear you're musical. Ever consider the Lord's Choir? We could sponsor you, get you out of this transitional phase. His eyes raked Hunter appraisingly, lingering too long. Hunter's smile was a blade. Appreciate it, sir. But my heart's already spoken for. He glanced at Thomas, a flicker of possession that made the deacon's face sour. That night, in the laundry's humid glow, Hunter pushed Thomas against the washer, kissing him fierce and deep. You're mine, he growled, hands roaming possessive. No suits, no saviors. Just us. They tumbled into rhythm, clothes shedding like old skin, bodies moving in the machine's vibrations, raw, reverent, a sacrament of their own. Thomas arched under him, gasping Hunter's name like a prayer, the world dissolving into sweat and sighs. But as they caught their breath, tangled in sheets stolen from the supply closet, Hunter's phone buzzed, a burner he'd hidden in the vent. He snatched it, face paling as he read the screen. Shit, he muttered, shoving it away. What? Thomas propped up, dread coiling. Nothing. Old contact from home. But Hunter's eyes dodged, and when he pulled Thomas close again, the embrace felt like a cage closing. The betrayal brewed slow, a storm on the horizon. Thomas ignored the signs, Hunter's late-night absences, the way he'd flinch at mentions of outside help. Love blinded him, or maybe hope did. Either way, when the axe fell, cleaved straight through. It started with a raid. Not cops, worse. Church enforcers, tipped off, storming the house at midnight with warrants for moral infractions. Kids screamed as bunks were flipped, journals confiscated. Thomas woke to chaos, Hunter yanking him from bed. Run back stairs. They bolted, hearts slamming, but the door was chained. In the frenzy, Thomas spotted it. Hunter slipping a note to one of the raiders, a burly man with a cross tattoo. Recognition hit like a gut punch. You called them? Hunter froze, guilt cracking his facade. Tom, it's not. You sold us out? The words tore free, raw as the rain that night on the porch. Hunter lunged, grabbing his arm. To save you, idiot. They were coming for me anyway, old debts. I bargained your spot in a real shelter. One without bars. Lies. The pain bloomed, hot and blinding. Thomas wrenched free, shoving past the melee toward the rec room. The raiders had the others rounded up, zip ties biting wrists, but Thomas didn't care. He slammed onto the piano bench, fingers flying over keys in a frenzy. A dirge of fury and heartbreak, voice rising in a howl that drowned the shouts. Take me to the river, drown this sinner down. The notes swelled, pulling eyes, stilling hands. Even the raiders paused, transfixed by the boy's anguish poured into sound. Hunter pushed through, tears streaking his face. Stop, please, Tom. I did it for us. But Thomas sang on, voice breaking the spell, the lock on their chains. In that crescendo, the house cracked, not brick, but souls. Kids surged, chanting lyrics, a chorus of the damned rising. The raiders faltered, calls for backup crackling unanswered as the cacophony swelled. By dawn, the enforcers retreated, warrants voided by the scandal brewing on social media, clips of the singing uprising going viral. Sanctuary House shuttered overnight, Hargrove arrested for embezzlement. Thomas and Hunter stood amid the wreckage, the distance between them a chasm wider than the Cuyahoga. You broke it, Hunter whispered, reaching out. All of it. Thomas stepped back, voice hoarse. Yeah. But you broke me first. The fallout from the raid hit like a Midwest blizzard, swift, disorienting, burying everything under layers of ice and scrutiny. Sanctuary House was cordoned off with yellow tape, a ghost ship run aground on the shores of public outrage. News vans clogged East 55th, reporters shoving mics at shell-shocked kids, herded into temporary foster vans. Thomas watched from the back of an ambulance, a wool blanket draped over his shoulders, as Hunter was led away in cuffs, not for the raid, but for priors, petty thefts from his running days, a juvie stint buried until now. I didn't know, Hunter mouthed across the chaos, green eyes pleading through the swarm. But Thomas turned away, the sting of betrayal sharper than the paramedics' needle drawing blood for dehydration checks. The city shuffled him into a real shelter this time, Heartland Haven, a non-profit in Lakewood with actual counselors, not crusaders, and windows that opened without alarms. It was cleaner, brighter, with group art therapy instead of sermons and a lounge stocked with dog-eared paperbacks. But freedom felt foreign, like a limb gone numb. Thomas spent days in a stupor, sketching lyrics on napkins, the piano in the common room gathering dust under his avoidance. Nights were worse. Dreams replayed the raid in Technicolor. Hunter's note handoff. The piano's wail. The moment Thomas's voice had rallied the broken into a force. He'd saved them. Videos tagged Sanctuary Scandal racked millions of views, sparking investigations into a network of reform houses across the Rust Belt. Protests bloomed in Cleveland squares, rainbow flags snapping alongside Union banners, an unlikely alliance of queers and blue-collars chanting for justice. Thomas's face was blurred in the clips, but his song became an anthem, bootlegs remixed with beats that thumped in dive bars from Detroit to Pittsburgh. Yet victory tasted hollow. "You did good, kid," his caseworker, a no-nonsense dyke named Rita with a buzzcut and basset hound tattoo, told him over lukewarm cocoa. "Broke the whole damn machine." "What's next?" Thomas shrugged, staring at the foam on his mug. "Don't know. Sing, maybe." "Without the handcuffs." Rita chuckled, but her eyes were kind. "Got an audition lined up, a youth open mic at the Rock Hall." "Think on it." She paused, flipping through his file. "And that boy, Hunter? He's out on bail. Community service. Says he wants to talk." The name landed like a hook in his gut. Thomas crumpled the napkin, ink smearing. Let him rot. But rot wasn't Hunter's style. 2 days later, as Thomas trudged home from a mandated GED class, Heartland's push for empowerment through education, a familiar pickup idled at the curb. Not the pastor's, but Hunter's uncle's, borrowed on a promise. Hunter leaned against the hood, faded jeans slung low, flannel shirt unbuttoned just enough to show the edge of a fresh bruise blooming purple on his collarbone. "Tom," he started, voice gravel over glass. 5 minutes. "Please." Thomas halted, backpack slipping from his shoulder. The street was quiet, kids on bikes weaving past, oblivious. Close. Hunter looked wrecked, stubble shadowing his jaw, eyes ringed with exhaustion. "What? Kentucky? Come to spin more lies?" Hunter winced, shoving hands in his pockets. "Fair. But hear me out, then walk if you want." He nodded to the passenger seat. "Drive." Neutral ground. Against every screaming instinct, Thomas climbed in. They cruised Lake Erie's edge, waves slapping the breakwater under a sky bruised with November clouds. Hunter drove in silence at first, knuckles white on the wheel, then pulled into a deserted overlook, the city skyline a jagged silhouette across the water. "Wasn't betrayal," he said finally, "killing the engine." Wind whistled through cracks in the door. "It was desperation. Those church assholes, my dad's old crew from Kentucky. They funded Hargrove, kept tabs. Found me months back, threatened to drag me to a real camp if I didn't feed him intel. Small stuff, attendance logs, nothing that hurt kids." Thomas crossed his arms, staring at the dashboard. "Until the raid. You tipped the scale." Hunter nodded, misery etching lines on his face too young for them. "Yeah. But I twisted it, slipped in warnings, got a kid out early. And you? I told him you were clean, too fragile for their games. Bargained your immunity." He turned, eyes fierce. "I fucked up, Tom. Thought I was protecting us. Didn't count on you being the goddamn hero." The word hung. Absurd. Thomas barked a laugh. Bitter. "Hero?" I sang 'cause my heart was exploding. "You gutted me." Hunter reached across the console, hesitating until Thomas didn't pull away. His hand was warm, tentative on Thomas's knee. "I know. And I'd undo it 1,000 times. But that night, Your voice, it wasn't just breaking locks. It broke me open. Made me see I ain't surviving anymore. I want living. With you. Thomas's throat tightened. Memories flooding. Stolen kisses. Hunter's laugh in the laundry's hum. The way he'd hum along to Thomas's strums. Betrayal didn't erase that. It complicated it. A scar over a tattoo. What now? He whispered. Cops. Courts, your priors. Community service gig at a rec center. Teaching guitar to strays like us. Hunter's thumb traced circles. Soothing. And you, additions. Tours. We build slow. No more secrets. They sat as dusk deepened. The lake a mirror for the fading light. Thomas leaned in. Forehead to Hunter's. Breath sinking. One condition. No more heroes. Just us. Honest. Hunter's kiss was soft. Apologetic, a seal on the pact. Deal. Life didn't snap into rom-com montage. Thomas's audition at the Rock Hall was a disaster. Nerves turned his voice to sandpaper. The crowd a blur of judgmental hipsters. He bombed. Slunk home to Heartland reeking of failure and cheap beer from a post-show dive. Hunter was waiting, sprawled on Thomas's bunk with a six-pack and his guitar. Screw him, Hunter said, tuning up. Play what I know. They jammed till curfew. Covers of Springsteen and queer anthems from the 90s. Hunter's harmonies weaving tight with Thomas's leads. It wasn't polished, but it was theirs, raw edges and all. Word spread. A local blogger caught wind from the viral clips, inviting them to a queer youth night at a Tremont coffeehouse. The gig was magic. 50 kids packed in, fairy lights twinkling, the air thick with acceptance. Thomas poured everything into the mic. Pain from the porch, fire from the raid, hope in Hunter's gaze from the wings. The crowd roared, encores demanded, and when Thomas dedicated the closer, a song for the locked-up hearts, to Hunter, the room exploded in cheers and tears. Afterward, in the alley behind the shop, rain slicking the bricks, Hunter pulled him close. Told you. Your voice breaks everything. Thomas grinned, kissing him sloppy under the downspout. Hours now, but shadows lingered. Holiday season brought letters, from Thomas's mom, postmarked Elmwood, words scrawled shaky, forgive me, praying for you. From Hunter's dad, a curt check with a note, don't embarrass the family. And then, the call from Rita, federal probe expanding, subpoenas for witnesses. Thomas and Hunter were key depositions, testimonies that dredged up the rot. The climax built in a sterile courtroom downtown, December's chill seeping through marble halls. Thomas took the stand first, voice steady as he recounted the therapy, the isolation, the raid's terror. Jurors leaned in, faces softening at his song demo played over speakers, the piano wail that had gone viral. Hunter followed, his drawl cracking on admissions, the threats, the complicity, the love that pulled him back. Cross-examination gutted them. The prosecutor, church-funded, slick as oil, painted Hunter a liar, Thomas a fame chaser. Isn't it true, he sneered at Thomas, that your little tantrum was more about attention than abuse? Thomas met his eyes, unflinching. Sir, attention's what they denied us. I sang for the silence they forced. The jury deliberated 2 days. Verdict. Guilty on corruption charges for Hargrove and backers. The network dismantled. Cheers erupted outside, but Thomas and Hunter slipped away, drained, to a diner on Euclid, pancakes drowning in syrup as catharsis. You're free, Thomas said. Fork midway. Hunter squeezed his hand. We both are. Winter gripped Cleveland like a grudge. Snow piling drifts against Heartland's windows, turning the world into a muffled hush. Thomas and Hunter navigated the thaw unevenly. Court dates bleeding into coffee runs, depositions dissolving into deep talks on sagging couches. Hunter's community service kept him tethered to the rec center, wrangling a gaggle of middle school misfits with cords and compassion. Thomas juggled GED finals with gig bookings, his voice gaining grit, a following budding in the city's underground scene. Their first real date was a scrappy affair. Hot dogs from a cart on the flats, then sneaking into an abandoned warehouse for a secret queer art pop-up. Graffiti bloomed on concrete, fists raised, lovers entwined, and a DJ spun tracks that pulsed like heartbeats. Hunter pulled Thomas onto the makeshift floor, bodies swaying close, sweat mingling with the scent of spray paint and freedom. You're glowing, Hunter murmured, lips brushing his ear over the bass line. Thomas laughed, spinning him out then back in. Blame the strobe. Or you. They crashed at Hunter's uncle's garage apartment that night. A pull-out couch amid toolboxes and oil stains, but it felt like a palace. Making love slow, by lantern light, Hunter tracing the freckles on Thomas's chest like constellations. This is us, he whispered post-climax, tangled and sated. No locks, but locks had a way of reforming. Spring unearthed complications. Thomas's mom showed up unannounced at Heartland, her station wagon idling like a getaway car. She was thinner, eye-shadowed, clutching a Tupperware of Buckeyes, Thomas's childhood favorite. Tommy, she choked, on the porch steps. I couldn't stay away. Your dad. He's sorry. In his way, Thomas's stomach nodded, old wounds itching. His way got me here, Mom. Kicked out like trash, she deflated, but pressed a folded letter into his hand. His dad's scrawl, halting, saw the news. Proud you're fighting. Come home when ready. Pride. The word twisted, half-healed scar tissue tearing. Hunter found him later, staring at the paper in the lounge. Burn it, he advised, but gentle. Or keep it. Your call. Thomas kept it, tucked in his notebook, a talisman of maybe. Their own rift simmered too. Hunter service ending with a job offer from a Nashville label scout. Entry-level roadie work on a country tour. It's a foot in, he said over diner fries. Eyes alight. Could lead to producing. For you, even. Thomas's fork paused. Nashville. That's far. Hunter's enthusiasm dimmed. 6 months. Tops. Then back. We video call. Gig on breaks. Make it work. The argument brewed quiet that night. Words like barbs. Thomas accusing clinginess. Hunter snapping about dreams deferred. It ended in slammed doors. Thomas storming to the rec room for a solo set that bled frustration into folk-punk fury. Kids gathered, nodding along, one girl with blue hair slipping him her number for a band collab. Dawn brought apologies, Hunter at his door with greasy breakfast burritos, contrite. Scared me too, he admitted, feeding Thomas a bite. Losing this? You? Nah. They recommitted. Planning visits. Mixtapes as lifelines. Summer scorched in. Gigs multiplying. Thomas fronted a pickup band. Queer misfits calling themselves lockbreakers. Packing basements from Akron to Youngstown. Hunter crewed local shows. His drawl charming sound techs. But tension hummed. Cancelled flights. Spotty signals. The miles stretching conversations thin. The betrayal resurfaced in August, a ghost in email form. An investigative journo, following the sanctuary thread, unearthed Hunter's deeper secret. Not just complicity, but a payoff, $5,000 from the church to infiltrate and report. He'd used it for bail, for the truck, but never told Thomas. The message hit Thomas's inbox mid-rehearsal, confirming details for peace. Hunter's role pivotal. Hero or Judas? Rehearsal imploded. Thomas ghosted Hunter for days, holing up at a friend's crash pad in Ohio City, drowning in whiskey sours and what-ifs. Hunter blew up his phone. It was blood money. Burned most on legal. Tell me how to fix. Thomas met him at the lake overlook. Same spot as confessions past. Storm clouds boiled. Thunder rumbling distant. Judas, he spat, letter in hand. You played me. Again. Hunter's face crumpled. No. Played them. Kept the cash to bury 'em. Lawyers. Evidence. It ended the network. He dropped to one knee. Not proposal but plea. Rain starting to patter. I love you, Tom. Flaws and all. Let me prove it. Lightning cracked, illuminating Hunter's desperation. Thomas's resolve fractured. Love wasn't ledger-balanced. It was this, messy under monsoons. He hauled Hunter up, kissing him fierce, salt mingling with rain. Last chance. Kentucky. No more shadows. Swear it. They rebuilt. Fiercer. Hunter quitting the Nashville gig for a Cleveland studio apprenticeship. Thomas channeling the hurt into an EP. Unlocked. Raw tracks of betrayal and bomb. Release party at the coffee house was electric, sold out, sweat-soaked. Hunter on bass. Their harmonies a vow. Fall deepened conflicts anew. Thomas's sister, Lily 14 now, bold as brass, hitched a bus from Elmwood, showing up with a duffel and defiance. Dad's worse, she confessed over pizza. Mom's leaving him. Said I could crash here. With you. Thomas's world tilted. Family. Reclaimed. He petitioned guardianship. Rita pulling strings. Lily integrated chaotic. Teen drama. Eyeliner smudges. But she adored Hunter, dubbing him Uncle Scarface. Holidays healed. Thanksgiving at Heartland. Extended kin of chosen and blood. Turkey carved with toasts to survival. Climax crested New Year's Eve. A blizzard stranding the city. Lockbreakers headlined a warehouse bash. Pyros and projections. But midway through set, power flickered outage from the storm. Crowd groaned. But Thomas grabbed the acoustic. Hunter lighting his face with a phone. One for the dark, Thomas yelled. Launching into an a cappella medley. The sanctuary dirge fused with Springsteen's Thunder Road. Voices joined. Phones aloft like stars. The warehouse a cathedral of collective ache. Hunter harmonized. Eyes locked. And as the chorus peaked, Thomas's voice soared. Cracking the blackout's grip. Generators hummed back online. Lights blazing to cheers. Backstage. Amid hugs and high-fives, Hunter pulled him aside. That's it. The lock. Every time, Thomas grinned, buzzed on adrenaline and him. Our song, but dawn brought reckoning. Lily's school called Elmwood PD, welfare check. Dad, drunk and raging, had trashed the house, ranting about stealing my boy. A restraining order loomed. Family court next. The hearing was a battlefield. Dad hulking in ill-fit suit. Mom testifying tearful. Lily's drawings of rainbows clutched like shields. Thomas spoke last. Voice steady. He kicked me out for loving wrong. But love's what saved me. Let it save her too. Judge ruled for Thomas. Temporary custody. Supervised visits. Dad stormed out, but Mom lingered, hugging tight. You're braver than me, Tommy. Outside, snow swirling, Hunter and Lily bookending him. Thomas exhaled. We did it. Humanity's arc bent. Not broke. Spring unfurled tentative. Crocuses punching through snowmelt like tiny rebellions, mirroring the slow bloom in Thomas's life. Guardianship settled into rhythm. Lily's chatter filling the garage apartment Hunter's uncle had deeded them after a heart scare, her posters clashing gloriously with Hunter's vinyl sleeves. Mornings were chaos. Thomas brewing coffee strong as his regrets, Hunter French braiding Lily's hair with clumsy fingers, the three of them scarfing toast before school runs and studio shifts. Lockbreakers toured regionally now, weekends in Toledo dives, Columbus coffee houses, their sound evolving, punk edges softened by Thomas's croon and Hunter's pedal steel size. Lily tagged along when legal, manning merch table with Sharpa tattoos for fans. My brother's famous, she'd brag, and Thomas would ruffle her hair, hiding the thrill. Hunter's apprenticeship bloomed too, co-producing a local focus album, his ear for hooks earning nods from indie labels. Nights, they'd collapse on the sagging couch, Lily asleep down the hall, trading stories, Thomas's Elmwood ghosts, Hunter's holler hymns. Intimacy deepened, not just bodies, lazy Sundays tracing scars, Hunter's on jaw from Dad's belt, Thomas's on heart from the raid. Beautiful, Hunter'd murmur, kissing each mark. All of you, yet undercurrents tugged. Dad's visits were minefields, stilted picnics where he'd gruff about football, avoiding eyes when Lily hugged Thomas extra tight. One June afternoon, post-barbecue, he cornered Thomas by the grill. Saw your show on YouTube. That song. 'Bout the house. Thomas nodded. Tongs mid-flip. Yeah. Hurt we carry. Dad's Adam's apple bobbed. I hurt you worst. Can't undo. But. Therapy. Groups for dads like me. He thrust a pamphlet. PFLAG. Ironic. Tryin'. Son. The olive branch bent Thomas low, tears pricking as he clapped Dad's shoulder. Start with Lily. She's the bridge. Mom divorced that summer, moving to a condo in Akron, weekends filled with baking and bad rom-coms. Family fractured but mending, threads weaving looser, stronger. The real storm hit July 4th, Independence irony thick as humidity. Lockbreakers headlined Cleveland's waterfront fest, fireworks prepped to burst over the lake. Backstage buzzed. Scouts from a Chicago label, setlist primed with unlocked cuts. Hunter tuned bass, winking. This the night we blow up? Thomas grinned, adrenaline fizzing. Or bust, set ignited, crowd moshing to openers, then their wave crashing in. Thomas owned the stage, voice a lasso pulling souls, anthems of locked hearts, unlocked lives. Hunter shredded solos, their chemistry electric, Lily whooping from VIP with Mom. Midway, dedication, for the fighters in the shadows. And the light that pulls us out, crescendo built to the raid medley, piano sampled over drums, Thomas's howl layered with crowd chants. Fireworks synced premature, booms punctuating hooks, the night alight. But as final chord faded, cheers deafening, Thomas spotted him. Pastor Reynolds, front row, face ashen, cross gleaming. Post set, amid autographs and bubbly, The pastor approached, suited, serpentine. Thomas. God works in mysterious. Save it. Thomas cut. Mic still hot. Voice booming accidental. Crowd hushed. Phones up. You drove me to hell. My voice got me out. We're done. Reynolds sputtered. But security, tipped by Rita, escorted him away. The moment went viral anew. Voiceover Vipers trending. Sealing Lockbreakers deal. Chicago signing. National tour. Euphoria crested. But crash followed. Hunter, post-party, confessed over rooftop beers. The label wanted him separate, solo producer track. Relocate. It's big, Tom. For us. Thomas's beer bottle shattered on concrete. Us? Or your escape? Argument exploded. Fireworks distant echoes to their shouts. Hunter accused stagnation. Thomas selfish ambition. Lily mediated tearful next dawn. But damage stuck. Hunter crashing at the studio. Thomas hollowing out. Weeks dragged. Tour prep a solo slog. Lily's school counselor flagged stress. Family therapy mandated. Sessions peeled layers. Hunter's fear of entrapment echoing sanctuary. Thomas's terror of abandonment from the porch. We're cycling trauma, the therapist said. Gentle. Break it together. Reconciliation brewed at the Rock Hall induction gala. Lockbreakers invited as rising stars. Thomas spotted Hunter across the hall. Sharp in thrift store blazer. Nursing a soda. Heart lurched. He wove through celebs. Tapping shoulder. Dance. Thomas extended hand. Band playing a cover of their raid song. Hunter's eyes softened. Thought you'd never ask. Floor crowded. But they carved space, slow sway. Foreheads touching. I panicked, Hunter murmured. Saw the offer. Thought it fixed me. But you're the fix, Thomas exhaled. And the roadie life? Negotiated remote. We tour as unit band and heart. Kiss sealed it. Soft amid applause. Tour launched Labor Day. RV rumbling west. Chicago opener electric. Crowds chanting lyrics like scripture. Lily stayed with mom. FaceTimes nightly. Kill it. Bros. Pinnacle hit Nashville, Hunter's Roots. Ryman Auditorium gig. Pre-show. He took Thomas to his holler, now a ghost town. Minds shuddered, but a creekside clearing where he'd first kissed a boy. Here, Hunter said, guitar in hand. Wrote this. Duet raw. Unplugged. Ballad of coal dust and coming out. Voices twining like vines. Post-gig. Label exec swooned. Homecoming crowd. Kin Huntered ghosted. Showed tentative cousin with a beer. Aunt with hugs. Finale circled back. Cleveland homecoming. Sold out Agora. Full circle from basement starts. Thomas dedicated closer to the locks we broke. Inside and out. Hunter joined for encore. Bass thumping. Their gaze a tether. After. On the lake overlook. Full circle. Thomas pulled a ring from pocket. Simple silver. Etched with a key. Not marriage. Promise. To keep breaking together. Hunter slipped it on. Kissing knuckle. Eternity's the lock. We got the voice. Years spun. Albums gold. Activism tours dismantling reform camps nationwide. Lily thrived, college-bound. Out and proud. Parents evolved. Dad at pride parades. Awkward but there. Mom baking for band potlucks. Thomas and Hunter built a life. Victorian in Tremont. Porch swing creaking under starlight. Guitars by the fire. Love humanistic. Scarred but sacred dramatic falls. Romantic rises. emotional depths plumbed. One eve, as Thomas strummed originals, Hunter harmonized, Lily home on break, family orbiting. The voice that broke the lock echoed still, not in fury, but quiet revolution. Freedom wasn't absence of chains, but the song to shatter them. In America's heartland, where storms brew fierce but skies clear blue, they sang on,